Start with you. May I call you Sam?
Yes.
Thank you.
Have you got another secret name for me, Jane?
Yes, the illustrious, talented one. That's okay. This feels...
I prefer that, yeah.
Oh, all right. This feels like an intensely personal film from you. Can you speak a little bit about the genesis of the story for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's personal without being autobiographical, which is quite a difficult thing to explain, you know. The main part of it that's personal is the journey of Olivia's character, Hilary, is loosely based on the journey of my mother, which is a journey through mental disintegration to the point where she put herself back together again, and as a sort of cycle, which I think a lot of people who've dealt with mental health issues, either themselves or with family members, have witnessed that cycle of medication, coming off medication, elation and hyper-mania, effectively, and then a crash. And I think it's one of the things that's very rarely talked about properly in movies or elsewhere, and there's still a stigma about mental illness, I think. It tends to be brushed under the carpet. So that was something that had haunted me since a child. I grew up with it, and it was very much part of my life and part of why I am who I am, and I ended up doing what I'm doing. But then it was combined with a number of other things. The period, which is when I was effectively Stephen's age, the early 80s, the music that defined me, the movies that defined me, the way that popular culture offered me an escape from what was going on at home. Offered me a way out, as it often does with people, art, a way out of crisis. And it was a time also when my, racial opinions and racial politics were very divisive at the time, as they still are in many ways. And all of these things were going around my head during lockdown when I tried to write the script. Period of self-examination, as all of us did, that feeling that maybe all of this was gone. Maybe we'll never be here all sitting together in a dark room watching a story. Maybe that was it, and maybe we didn't know how lucky we were while we had it. And so I was drawn back to that time on a number of levels. So all of those things, I think, went into the making of it and the writing of it. By the way, I wanted to say thank you to my mum before the movie, but there were lots of people to introduce. And I wanted to say thank you for living through that period of grief and difficulty and bringing up on her own a very vivacious and annoying young boy. So, I've said it.
When you were writing with Olivia in mind?
I don't want to make her ego any bigger than it already is, but yes, I was. Yes, I was. I didn't know Olivia, but I was a fan, and it just seemed kind of inevitable. I don't know why. I saw her playing dearly beloved and departed Queen on television, and I just saw every thought cross her face, every moment. She was so translucent, and I just looked at her. I thought, oh, that's Hilary. And so that was a bit of a beacon throughout the process. And it was just a thrill when she said yes, and it always felt like it was meant to be.
Well, speaking of mothers, Tanya, you make a tremendous impact in this film in a very brief amount of time on screen. Can I ask, did you and Michael do some bonding, or how did you approach portraying his mother? Did you spend time together?
Thank you, by the way. That's really kind of you to say that. We had some rehearsal time at the start. But then, so Sam shoots everything chronologically. And as you know, I appear like sort of 2/3 of the way in. So actually, I met Michael at the start during rehearsals. And then I went off to do another job and then showed up on set about a month and a half, 2 months later or something. Sam looked surprised to see me. I think he forgot that he'd casted me. What are you doing here? So I think, I'm a mum of a teenager who's, you know, and she's at an age where she's transitioning to another period of her life, which is quite significant. And this is very much what's happening with my character and with Michael's character. And so I think, I mean, those things we just kind of, I think we spend a lot of time just looking into each other's eyes, don't we, and just kind of playing the moment. Just being good scene partners together and trying to bring it to life.
Because from the moment,
Look at it, look at the little bottom. So cute.
you are a mom, aren't you? Yeah. Olivia, I wanted to ask you, Hillary is a woman she has so much life, she has so much spirit, so much imagination inside of her. It's been contained, it feels boxed in. And what is it about Stephen that unlocks something in her? It's really lovely to watch again and to watch someone comes into to her world with a brain and a future and beauty, and it's like this sparkling light comes in and you can't take your eyes off him, and you can see why she's drawn to him, and she sort of forgets what he might see, but for some reason he doesn't see what she's worried he'll see. He sees a kindred spirit or a mind and a gentleness, and I just love the fact that they have this friendship and this relationship. It's not what you'd all imagine would happen, and it is something beautiful that they have between them, and it's never going to last. But it's a lovely moment that they will both cherish forever, and they learn from it, and I love it. It's beautiful to watch on screen. The tenderness between the two of you is just beautiful. Michael, I wanted to ask you also about Stephen. This is a young man facing all kinds of things, all new things in front of him. He's struggling for his future, is the object of some racialized violence. Can you talk a little bit about how you approached putting all of this together?
For me, I obviously knew that, you know, I was going to be working with some amazingly talented people, so I just wanted to prepare. So I remember when I got the job, when I got back from filming somewhere else, I messaged Sam and I said, I need to sit down with you and talk about this character and talk about how I can, you know, get into it. And we've done that. We spoke about everything. And I had my acting coach, Gary Nurse, who was working very, very intensely, just trying to figure out the period, you know, listening to the music, watching a lot of the films that were in the screenplay, and yeah, man, just kind of just going over the scenes to just let the words sink in. I think that was a lot of the work for me, but none of that can prepare you to actually being on set with Olivia Colman and Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins, you know what I'm trying to say, that, and Tanya, by the way. So yeah, for me, it was just being so prepared so that I can allow myself to be present, and I felt like that was definitely it.
Michael has not mentioned one of his biggest challenges, which is at the beginning of the shoot, he turned and said, do you think it's important? I'm really kind of phobic about birds, so I'm not going to actually have to touch the bird. And we were like, no, you're going to have to touch the bird. And then he, like a true pro, he just trained himself, he spent every day with those birds. And by the end, he was like a bird whisperer.
Let's hear it for overcoming phobia. A big moment. Congratulations. Sincerely, I mean that.
Someone understands. That's it's true.
Overcoming any kind of phobia, maybe this is not the place. We'll talk later, okay? Yeah. So, Roger, if I could also ask you a question. This is the 5th film that you have made with Mr. Mendes. And I love the fact that this is literally and metaphorically a film about light. And so I wondered, what is it about the relationship that you have that makes you want to keep working together, but also there must be something that you understand about each other and the other's vision that makes you such a successful team?
No idea. I mean, the projects are just wonderful. You know, when Sam sent this script, I changed and I was expecting something totally different. And suddenly there's this script that seems to be written about a seaside town. I grew up by the seaside, and suddenly I'm drawn into a world that, I mean, I grew up in the 60s, you know, growing up in the seaside in the 60s, but there were still bikers, and I remember getting beaten up by the sailors that came to town at the weekends and the nightclubs, and so I suddenly read something that seemed very connected to my life, actually. So, but why we get on? Why does anybody get on? You know, you have a similar sensibility in a sense. I mean, Sam just wants to make films about real people and real situations, and a big phrase, human condition, I guess.
Right. Well, you have done that here, and you brought it here to Toronto, and I can't thank you enough, all of you, for spending time with us and bringing it back. Congratulations.